Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. Thanks for meeting me. I know it's late, stated a blue-eyed blonde. No problem, Gaki, but what is this about? Questioned a potential future Hokage. Naruto let out a short sigh. I know this is a thing. I'm a child and you're an adult, but for the first 7 years of my life I was referred to as Demon Brat so often I thought it was my name, so if you aren't all that interested in saying my name, then can you at least find something else to call me? Sorry, Naruto, Tsunade said with a visible frown. So, is this round 2 in attempting me to come back to the village because I real? Before she could finish, Naruto interrupts. No, what you're doing is brave. Even if no one is willing to admit it, Naruto said in almost a whisper. Tsunade, obviously surprised, does not know how to take this. She was not expecting this, and seeing her utter shock, Naruto continues. Yes, brave. You ever notice that no one ever labels and act cowardly when it's what they want you to do? How is that possible? Almost makes you think people label things in accordance with their own self-interests. Seeing Tsunade's continued surprise, Naruto can't help poking a little fun. What surprises you more? That I know a word like accordance, or that I'm aware of the concept of self-interest? Naruto asks through a series of chuckles. What the hell? Naruto. Where was this yesterday? You looked like you were ready to fight me when I trashed the Hokages and the village, so why the turnaround? It's simple, that was for Jiraiya. It's an adaptive strategy. If people don't show me the real them shortly after meeting them, I won't show them the real me. Jiraiya wanted to act the super pervert instead of the shinobi I knew him to be, and when he trained me for the Chunin exam finals he was mostly interested in the fox instead of me. He made his choice, so I gave him what I give everyone else, the hyperactive loudmouth. And what have I done to earn your true self? People can fake being bitter and jaded, too, Tsunade says as she finally takes a drink. True enough, and who knows, maybe you're just trying to get a better deal before you agree to be Hokage, but Jiraiya filled me in on your history and your sense of loss felt very real. If you can fake that, then I'm impressed. Okay, I think we've gotten a little off track here. Why is my self-imposed exile brave? Tsunade asks. Before answer, Naruto takes several moments and stares down into his drink, then states, because you're free. You served your village, but when the cost was too high, when you had suffered enough, you broke free of the system. It can't be easy for a Senju to leave the village started by their clan. It couldn't have been easy for the most powerful kunoichi in existence to walk away. The old man used to talk about the will of fire a lot, and he may have believed it, but it was also self-serving. You walked away because you had enough when almost everything in your life would have told you to do otherwise. You didn't do the easy thing. I don't care what anyone says, getting out is brave. I wish I were that brave. Naruto, what happened to you? Why do you wish to leave the village so badly? Jiraiya made it seem like you wanted to be the Hokage, and it isn't easy to fool seasoned shinobi, so what gives? Tsunade-san, how much do you know about me? Naruto asks. Not much, mostly just Jiraiya's impression of you, but I also know about the fox, which I'm guessing you assumed since you already mentioned it, Tsunade said with a smirk. Yay. I figured you did, and even if you didn't, I'm just not sure I care to keep the worst kept secret in the elemental nations anymore. But yes, I house the fox, and because of it I am not particularly popular in the village. That's actually putting it mildly. I'm actively hated. By the civilians, by shinobi. I was isolated from most everyone in the village, and honestly that was preferable to the occasional bouts of physical abuse I'd experience, Naruto expressed, matter-of-factly. Surely there are some people who cared for you and you them. Jiraiya mentioned you and Sensei were close, prodded Tsunade. Ha ha ha. Tsunade-san, you may want to stop relying on Jiraiya's intel, it isn't quite accurate. I was, once, close to the old man. I truly saw him like a grandfather and believed he saw me like a grandson until I noticed he'd continually lie to me. There was also the fact that I've seen how he treated his actual grandson. What he showed me is pity, and what he wanted was for me to ease his guilty conscience. That's not genuine affection, that's being used, and he was entirely too comfortable with using me as long as he could dress it up in pretty words. Naruto said, barely holding back a sneer. Did you know I didn't know about my burden until the night I became a genin? Not only was this information provided to me by someone who wanted and attempted to kill me, but the emotional shock could very well have, if not for the intervention of my academy sensei. The old man's justification for not telling me is he wanted me to have a normal childhood, but that clearly had failed. I was kicked out of an orphanage and had to get my own apartment before I was old enough to join the academy. How is that normal? The best I can come up with is the old man thought if I knew how unfair the villagers were being, then maybe I wouldn't want to protect them, maybe I'd stay a civilian and eventually leave. But he couldn't have that, no. No matter how sincerely the old man felt for me, if it came down to it, I was a weapon and property of the village. Sensei had his faults, Naruto, but I think you may be drawing conclusions on thin evidence, Tsunade retorted. Really? Have you ever met someone who believed in the concept of the needs of the many outweighing the needs of a few than the old man? Because I haven't, and that's the only way his inaction to stop my suffering makes any sense. I don't want to hear any bullshit about he was a tired old man. If that's the case, he would have had Jiraiya track you down years ago, but he didn't. He spoke so much about the will of fire and how everyone in the village is like family, but you know what? Sometimes families sacrifice for one member of it, sometimes the good of the few does outweigh the good of the many. He never saw it that way, but tellingly, the good of the many seemed to never require a sacrifice of him, said Naruto. Okay, I can see how you could come to that conclusion, but what about this sensei that helped save you? Surely his intentions were pure, right? To this, Naruto laughs again and then replies, my sensei, Iruka, believed he was doing me a favor by managing to overcome his initial hatred of the fox and thus me. He wanted a pat on the back for managing to treat me fairly and buying me ramen every once in a while. However, said sensei that cared oh so much never caught when the other instructors were teaching me improperly, if they taught me at all or screwed with my tests. He accepted that I was a dead last with potential, I just didn't try hard enough to tap into, and just like the old man and Jiraiya, I decided to give them the fool they wanted. Besides, Tsunade-san, would you credit someone for managing to see past your gender to treat you fairly? No, I wouldn't. You've got me there, Naruto, Tsunade said as her frown deepened, which Naruto noticed. I'm sorry, Tsunade-san, I didn't ask you to meet me so I could depress you with my sad little life. I just wanted to point out that regardless of what you've done since you left the village, staying away wasn't some betrayal of higher principles. And while the village does need a new Hokage, did Jiraiya ever ask if the village was deserving of you? I doubt it. I often wish I could leave, especially now. I have very few reasons to stay, most of them based around fear. Fear of the hunter nins, fear of the gang of S-class shinobi hunting me, and just fear of the unknown. I feel like trapped and I couldn't try to convince you to come back to something I dream of escaping. Tsunade takes several moments to digest what Naruto has just told her, having trouble organizing her thoughts but feeling the need to know the boy has some comfort. She asks, Naruto, is there anyone in the village who cares for you and you them? What about your classmates? Jiraiya, damn it. Naruto chuckles before he responds. Jiraiya mentioned how a class full of clan heirs is talented and close. They are close to each other, for the most part, but none of them are my friends. As I said, the academy sought to make me look like an idiot, and because there was no punishment for doing so, I became an easy target for bullying. Anytime you needed a self-esteem boost, just go mock Naruto, since that's what he's good for. So, they too got the fool. Yes, I could have been closer to my actual personality, but why would I? Most of them didn't actually want to know me, and my being seen as an idiot was safer than being competent. A stupid demon gets to live. With an unshed tear, Tsunade asks, was there anyone you cared for? Naruto immediately looks away, debating whether to divulge this or not. Taking a deep breath, he answers, yes, there is. And she cares for me, but she finds herself in a similar situation, so acknowledging her feelings could potentially result her being further harmed by her clan. If you don't mind, I'd rather not say any more about it. To which Tsunade nods. That's a lot to take in, Naruto. I get why leaving seems so attractive to you, but you are still a current Shinbi of the Leaf. Wasn't your mission to bring me in? Why are you trying to fail? I truly meant what I said, Tsunade-san, about you being brave, but that's not it, entirely. I may be wrong about the old man's intentions, but I can't trust in his benevolence, not anymore. I guess I'm just not in a hurry to find the next person who will lie to me about my past or sacrifice me for people who hate me. Ultimately, the decision is yours, and if you do come back, I hope you can make some positive changes, but I wouldn't bet on it. After hearing this, Tsunade lets out a mirthless chuckle as she sees Naruto take his leave. Right before he reaches the door, Tsunade calls out, Naruto, you said you wanted to leave, especially now. What happened to make your desire to leave greater than it was? Naruto looks genuinely shocked at the question. Taking a moment to collect himself, he asks, so, Jiraiya didn't tell you? Seems like he left out something important. The reason I want to leave the village is because of what happened during the Chunin finals. War is hell on everyone, Naruto, so I can imagine the invasion was too. Before she could finish, Naruto interrupts. No, not the invasion. I'm talking about the actual finals. I can't believe you don't know this already, but during my match of the finals I did what many see as unforgivable. What's that? Tsunade asks. I killed Sasuke Uchiha. Tsunade sat at the bar, trying to digest all of what Naruto had told her, desperately trying to make sense of it. Hey, the name makes sense now, she thought. In 24 hours, she had been asked to return home, to lead and protect a village that is seemingly quite different than what she left. Tsunade was the opposite of naive. Leaving through war will do that, but even in her justifiable bitterness, she never thought Konoha would fall so far. And to think, being visited by a certain snake wasn't the most alarming event of the day. Clearly, she needed to talk to Jiraiya and get a better picture of the village and a certain blonde-haired, blue-eyed genin. Just as she finished her thought, the Toad Sage himself sat beside her. So, how much of that did you hear? Tsunade asks, never taking her eyes off her drink. All of it. I followed him here. It isn't safe for the kid to be left unattended. The way the kid tells it, it rarely has been, stated Tsunade. Jiraiya sighs, as if a lifetime of poor choices are coming to a head. Mistakes were made. Sensei believed in the village and their ability to recognize what Naruto truly was. I wanted an out, and being the spy master gave me the perfect excuse. The kid suffered, and while difficult, I want to make it up to him and his parents, but apparently I haven't even met the real Naruto yet. Too bad, he seems like a sweet kid. I'm sure you'd like him, replied Tsunade. Way to twist the knife, Harem, glad your shinobi skills haven't dulled, Jiraiya offered in a near grunt. So, what happened at the Chunin finals? Of course I just met him, but Naruto didn't strike me as particularly bloodthirsty. Was it the fox's influence? I don't know, I was prepping for the invasion, and after that, Sensei and I were getting things ready for his retirement. I just know that Naruto killed Sasuke and that essentially ruined the invasion as planned. Wait, what? How could that have possibly affected the invasion? The Uchiha was a target of Orochimaru. He wanted the kid for his Sharingan. When Naruto killed Sasuke, not only did he ruin long-term plans, but the snake became enraged and darted to Naruto in an attempt to kill the kid. Initially the invasion was going to be Suna and Oto, but once Suna saw their cage being impersonated, the senior Jonin put 2 and 2 together and turned on the sound ninja. Also, because he never got to fight, the Suna Jinchuriki did not have the chance to unleash his Biju, which we deduced was a major part of the plan. Jiraiya explained, I've yet to be given a reason to return to that village, if even their protectors are grossly mistreated. I'll see you tomorrow morning, Jiraiya, if for no other reason than to help Naruto. He clearly could use someone to talk to about the Chunin finals. And with that both Sanin returned to the inn. Okay, that makes some sense, I guess. Why does Naruto believe killing the Uchiha is unforgivable? Tsunade asks. That's a much longer conversation, but the quick version is that the civilians treated the Uchiha like a tragic prince that was suffering beyond anyone's understanding. Being a pariah already, and I'm assuming Naruto feels like a marked man, Jiraiya said. Tsunade frowns, briefly, which doesn't go unnoticed by Jiraiya. Well, is there anything else you can tell me about Naruto? Talking with Naruto leads me to believe you don't know your new apprentice very well. Low blow, Tsunade. And yes, it appears my initial impression of into Naruto left something to be desired. Sensei suspected that the kid was being sabotaged and he wanted me to see if there was some potential there and keep an eye on the seal, Jiraiya offered. What do you mean? Sensei suspected sabotage. He's the Hokage. How difficult would it have been to find out? He is the Hokage, but he's also bus. Bullshit. He's too busy to stop a child from being actively hurt, set up to die in the field, and you think an excess of paperwork makes this okay? No wonder he doesn't trust you or Sensei. No wonder he wants to leave. Tsunade said, solemnly. I know. Sensei just told me the kid was the most forgiving person he's ever known. I thought I could start a relationship with him and eventually tell him the truth and hope he'd understand while helping him improve how the village sees him. I knew he hid his hurt, but clearly I don't know how much of his true personality he hides. It's getting late and I'm both too tired and too sober to solve this. I need to talk to Naruto tomorrow morning and I'm assuming you'll want to, so why not call it a night? We can discuss returning then as well. In the distance he hears what sounds like someone finishing breakfast for the day. With a mischievous grin and all the stealth of a prankster king, he makes his way to the kitchen. Seeing his targeted blissfully unaware of his presence, he makes his final approach. Upon reaching her, he snakes his hands around her waist and kiss her gently on the cheek. Good morning, Mrs. Uzumaki. Good morning, Mr. Uzumaki, she says with a grin. I didn't hear the kids this morning. Where'd they get off to? Oh, they're with their aunt for the day. So, we're all alone. I'll have to thank Hanabi later, but as for now, what should we do with this bit of free time? Naruto asks, grin widening. Why? I don't know, but I am open to suggest. Before she could finish, Naruto starts to kiss her neck. Why is it every time we get some time away from the kids your impulse is to make another one? Hinata asks, a smile matching his own. You wouldn't understand. Oh, is this a guy thing? No, not at all. I think I have a particular weakness for moon-eyed, indigo-haired beauties. Apparently there's no cure. Lifelong ailment, the doctors told me. Since when does the great Naruto Uzumaki go to doctors? Something about this doesn't add up. That should let you know how serious I am, Hina-chan. The consensus was that while no cure, I should likely indulge the impulse as often as possible to prevent any negative consequences. Hinata, turning toward Naruto, oh, really? Well, if it's doctor's orders. Several doctors, Naruto interrupted. Right, if several doctors have prescribed this, then I'd be remiss if I didn't aid in your treatment. All you have to do is wake up. What? Hinata's smooth angelic voice was replaced by a gruff bastards that doesn't know not to interrupt dreams about his Hinata-chan, apparently. There will be retribution, Naruto thought before surrendering to consciousness. I said wake up, Naruto. You're too young to need this much sleep, stated Jiraiya, as he shook the young genin. Looking beyond irritated, Naruto gaze meets Jiraiya's. You know, the fact that I have sunk a kunai in your head speaks poorly for the both of us. I don't think anyone should be allowed to insult the great Jiraiya like that. So, how about you create a shadow clone and kick your OWN so you learn some respect for a great shinobi, and I'll be here sleeping when you get back. My lack of training will be punishment enough. Naruto's diatribe was met with snickering from two unfamiliar voices, causing him to immediately sit up but relaxing when he sees it's Tsunade and Shizune. Letting out a small yawn, Naruto greets the two and then turns to Jiraiya, with a barely hid scowl. Why did you wake me up so early, pervy sage? Turning to Tsunade, did you agree to come back to the village, Tsunade-san? No, Naruto, I'm still very much against returning to Konoha to be the Hokage. Jiraiya and I just wanted to talk to you about some of the things you said last night, particularly regarding what happened during the exam. Oh, Naruto said, mildly surprised, I figured Jiraiya would have filled you in after I left. I assumed he was listening to our discussion. Am I right? How did you know I was there, Naruto? Not even seasoned sensors can pick up my cloaking jutsu, Jiraiya stated in disbelief. I didn't say I knew you were there, I said I assumed. I made no attempt to hide my leaving last night, nor did I make it difficult to find me, so I figured you'd want to know where I was going and what Tsunade-san and I discussed. That's not really a Nara-level deduction. Okay, kid, fair enough, but this is something we need to resolve. Why did you hide how you really were? Why did you hide how smart you are, and what else are you hiding? I met you outside of a onsen, peeping on women. During our first training session you stated what you'd mostly be focusing on is summoning in me utilizing the fox's chakra. Against my objections, I might add. If you weren't giving me the bare minimum in instruction, you were mocking me for my lack of progress. In any of that, what would make me want to reveal myself to you? And on that note, what are you hiding from me? Naruto says, no longer bothering to hide his scowl. What do you mean? What am I hiding? Why did you agree to train me? I told you, Gaki. I see talent in you, Jiraiya answered. Bullshit. Bullshit. You saw talent in me. Once again, you were more concerned with the fox chakra than improving my abilities. Add to that, the only talent I've ever demonstrated was for infiltration and trap making. That'd make Anko Mitarashi an ideal sensei, not you, who has been a front-line fighter most of your career. You forget I'm the village's spy master. I just don't forget I'm a war deterrent, and they'd never give me that long a leash for fear something would happen or I'd escape. So, Jiraiya, why did you agree to train me? Jiraiya was now at a loss for words. Should he reveal his ties to Naruto now or wait? With a heavy sigh, Jiraiya sticks with his story. Naruto, listen, I truly believe you have talent. Even outside of the Biju chakra, I think you can be a great shinobi. I'm sorry our time before the finals wasn't what you wanted, but that chakra is too potent a trump card to not develop. Naruto's eyes become glacial as he asks, what good is a trump card if it's your only card? What good is utilizing the fox's chakra if all my other skills are shit? Unless your concern is training a weapon and not a shinobi. But before Jiraiya could respond, Naruto's facial expression adopts an appearance Jiraiya is more familiar with. Don't worry about it, pervy sage, Naruto says at a near shout, with your help I'll be a kick-ass shinobi at no time. Watch out, Ba-chan, he says to Tsunade, because if you do accept the hat I'll be there shortly to take it from you, Datbeo. Naruto, please don't do this. Tsunade says. Don't do what? He wants the truth but won't provide any to me. Fine. While you're here I won't, but Jiraiya, I'm not an idiot. You have precisely 2 reasons to train me. The fox and a connection to my past. I know Sarutobi knows who my parents are. I suspected you do, as well. What could be so dangerous about telling me? They must have been important. But wait, blonde hair and blue eyes, there was someone famous who had those features. Would explain how he had access to me. When Naruto says this, Jiraiya stiffens while Tsunade's eyes widen. He continues, but wait, there is no way I could be his child. No way the village would claim to revere him and yet systematically abuse his legacy and spit on his sacrifice, right? So, that's just a coincidence. But wait, why would want of the Sannin bother with me? Wait, didn't he train, realizing that Naruto has known about, at the very least, his father for some time? He looks away in shame. I've suspected since I became a genin. Your reaction just confirmed it. I guess Sarutobi's bullshit reason for not telling me is out the window now, but don't worry, I'm not going to go spouting it. It wouldn't be good for me to do so, but if you wish to continue to treat me like an idiot, Jiraiya, I'll play the part. I don't have the leisure to turn away people willing to teach me, even if they aren't teaching me the things to make me a better ninja but a tool of the village. Naruto, I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. Okay. Huh, is the only thing each of the shocked adults are able to say. I said okay. I've had a month to come to terms with this. I'm not saying I necessarily forgive you, but actively being mad at you harms myself more than it does you, and I don't like walking around angry all the time. Waste of a life, so if you can agree to be real with me, I can do the same for you. Yay. No problem, Naruto. Maybe later I can tell you about both your parents, if you're up to it. Of course, sensei, but I think we may be being rude to our guests. Tsunade-san, you stated you wished to discuss my Chunin finals match, may I ask why? Tsunade pauses for a moment then proceeds, well, honestly, I don't know. It just seemed to be weighing you down, and I know how things like that can change you. It's not good to hold on to it. Oh, makes sense. I don't mind telling you about it. Honestly, it would be nice to go through it with a pair of objective eyes. But to start, Sasuke and I were assigned to the same genin team. Our relationship was rocky at best. He saw me as useless, and anytime I demonstrated otherwise, he became insecure in his own abilities, which he proceeded to take out on me. Our Jonin sensei, Kakashi, never saw fit to curb this behavior. I suspect he always wanted to use me and Sasuke's reaction to me to Sasuke's benefit while neglecting my personal development. With that said, will all combatants except Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto exit to the waiting area, stated the new proctor. Sasuke, wearing a black one-piece with his right arm bandaged, was wearing a smirk. What kind of smirk can be debated, most likely didn't know there were variations of smirks because they were blessed to never have to encounter this particular Uchiha. Naruto, wearing black Anbu-style pants and a black shirt with a red Uzumaki crest on the back, appears unsure, potentially nervous. Attempting to take a moment to calm himself, he is caught unaware when Genma announces, "Hijame." The Uchiha shoots off like a cannon, demonstrating much improved speed since the preliminaries, nearly too fast for Naruto to track. Only his reflexes keeps Naruto from taking a right hook flush on the jaw, managing to roll with the strike at the last moment. However, this is just the opening salvo of the Uchiha's onslaught. The initial right hook is followed by a left straight, that is narrowly dodged, but the action leaves Naruto out of position for the kick to the body, which he takes the full force of. Using the momentum of the strike, Naruto rolls and dashes away from Sasuke to create some space, hoping for the moment affords him time to strategize. Seeing a small break in the action, the crowd erupts over the initial exchange. The pause in the action doesn't last long as Sasuke rushes towards Naruto once again. This time, however, Naruto is ready. Every strike Sasuke throws awards him a small nick or cut from Naruto's swiftly drawn kunai. Small wounds across his arms may not have concerned the nascent Avenger, but the deeper cuts on his right leg, right above the knee, may limit his mobility, at least Naruto hopes. Preparing for another rush, Sasuke starts to speak. Why so quiet, Dobi? Normally, we can't get you to shut up for a moment. You love attention, right? So, why so silent? You can't be worried about losing, that was always assured, so what is it? Embarrassment in how bad you're going to lose. You've always been an embarrassment, so that can't be it. Come on, Naruto, speak up. Maybe it's because you realize no one gives a damn about you. To this, Naruto flinches. Yes, that must be it. Hey, can I tell you a secret, Dobi? Some of us knew, we knew the academy instructors used to screw with you. I knew, and if I did, then you have to assume Shikamaru knew as well, and yet no one ever did anything on your behalf but mock you. Hell, you think of the Hokage as a grandfather, and yet has he ever offered to train you, to help you be a better shinobi in any way? No. Why would he? It was decided that you would be the dead last and no one bothered to challenge it. Hell, even you gave up and filled the position. No one believes you have talent, no one believes you can succeed. Hell, Why would the Hokage put you on a team with people that actively hate you? During Sasuke's diatribe, Naruto fights back the tears. While having considered these points, having it called out in the view of hundreds still stings, but for some reason he can't bring himself to react. Face it, everything you want, I have or readily discard it. You so crave bonds and honestly have no real ones. And if there is something that you want in your future or someone, just know there would always be someone superior, someone more acceptable to make sure you never get it. Quit now, Dobi. Don't make me expose you any further. Don't assume that which you try too hard to keep secret actually is. Naruto instantly knows Sasuke is now talking about Hinata, but how? They've always been careful, but beyond that this arrogant prick has crossed the line. Before he can even ask, Naruto is covered in Biju chakra. I guess foxes don't like arrogant Uchihas either, and immediately closes the distance between Sasuke and he. Without his Sharingan active, Sasuke can't handle the barrage of strikes Naruto unleashes, and coupled with the kunai wounds, Sasuke knows he has to end this quickly. Using a shunsen, Sasuke stands atop an arena wall. Blazing through hand signs, the arena hears the sounds of birds chirping. He's using Kakashi's jutsu. He's planning to kill me. At seeing the jutsu, Naruto steels himself and withdraws a different kunai from his holster. A split second later and Sasuke darts down the wall and immediately heads toward Naruto. 50 feet out, Naruto tosses his kunai, appearing to miss Sasuke entirely. Closing the distance, Sasuke rears his hand back, prepared to stab Naruto, and just as he is about to touch the blonde, he is greeted with an explosion. Wait, how did you cause the explosion? Tsunade asks. The kunai I threw, that I used a kawarimi with it, answered Naruto. So, he ran past an explosive note and didn't know? Tsunade questioned. No, I've been practicing fuinjutsu, and while not advanced I can do an explosive note. I spoke with a local ninja supply store and asked if there was a way to apply the seal directly on the kunai, something akin to what the Yondaime used. After a few attempts we got it right, and that's what I used. Best thing is, the chakra used for the kawarimi was enough to trigger it, and the kunai acts as shrapnel. Some of it severed an artery and Sasuke bled out. That's pretty smart, kiddo. Thanks, Tsunade. Hey, Jiraiya, why are you so quiet? Something about that fight doesn't quite add up. Jiraiya takes a long pause as if narrowing in on his answer. That kid's diatribe. It feels wrong, almost too honed for a genin. What do you mean? It was Sasuke being his normal dickish self, stated Naruto. Immediately Tsunade shows recognition. No, I think Jiraiya has a point. Naruto, you likely wouldn't know this, but a basic interrogation tactic has 3 steps. 1. You undermine the subject's view of themselves. Secondly, you undermine their belief in close ties or bonds. Finally, you reveal a secret, something they'd swear you have no way of knowing. Jiraiya continues, it gives the illusion of control, that you have no way of hiding anything from said person. It is rarely used in direct combat because people don't stand around talking, but something artificial like the Chunin exams, it becomes a more realistic tool. He likely didn't just learn this, someone taught it to him, most likely. Kakashi, they say in unison. Naruto trying, and failing to control his temper. He used to be my Anbu guard. There's no way Sasuke could know or even care to know anything about me. Kakashi was trying to get him to break me while arming him with an assassination jutsu. That goddamn son of a bitch. This goes past picking favorites. He crossed a line this time. The Yondaime's prized pupil will pay for this, even if I have to go down with him to assure it. Gaki, calm down. You just get started on your training for the day. I'll get in touch with Sensei and have him question Kakashi, stated Jiraiya, trying to reassure his student. I highly doubt that'll do much good, but okay. Naruto quickly changes and heads out for the day. This is the village you want me to return to? Why would I ever do that? Since when do Jonin instructors sabotage their students with interrogation techniques? I don't know, but this is a sign the village needs a change. You could be that change, At least that's what I'm hoping. You wanted to see me, Hokage-sama? Asked the cycloptic Junin. Yes, Kakashi, I did. I just got a visit from a messenger toad. Both Jiraiya and Naruto know you gave Sasuke facts and training meant to break Naruto during the Chunin finals. I figured now would be the perfect time to discuss what exactly was going on in that fool mind of yours, stated Sarutobi. I only did as you ordered, Hokage-sama. I assumed you'd relay that to Jiraiya and Naruto to put their minds at ease, Kakashi replied. Sarutobi fixes a fierce glare on his famous Junin. When did I ever tell you to use that on Naruto? I'd never, especially not with a crowd to watch it. So, please tell me how you came to this conclusion. I'm more than happy to, Hokage-sama. See, when it was time for Naruto to graduate, I asked to take him on as an apprentice not only to pay back my sensei for all he did for me but to undo much of the harm your academy instructors no doubt did to his shinobi skills. I speculated that with his mindset and ability to learn through doing he'd easily be a mid-tier Chunin in 6 months, a year max. You informed me that I had to take a full team and it had to include that insipid Uchiha. Against all my objections you made it clear the only way I'd have what should have been my little brother on my team is to have Sasuke and Sakura, 2 of his worst tormentors. Kakashi pauses to keep from raising his voice but continues, you then informed me that you felt Sasuke was a flight risk but Naruto was a potential threat to the village and to neutralize both I should focus more on Sasuke and Sakura while stalling Naruto's development until you deemed he no longer posed a threat. Since I didn't want to continue to stall Naruto but I saw how Sasuke reacted anytime he felt Naruto closing the skill gap, I decided that if Sasuke had a near-permanent mental edge on Naruto you'd allow me to finally train him properly. Sasuke would always feel he was a step ahead of Naruto regardless of how true it is and you would have both future issues resolved. Everyone would be happy. Where have I erred in my logic, Hokage-sama? So, you did this to teach me a lesson. You twist my orders and tell me you did so with the hope to eventually ignore them entirely. Sarutobi asked, with mild outrage. I'm sorry, Hokage-sama, I do not see the issue. A method cannot be judged simply by the result. I made Sasuke promise to never use that jutsu, a jutsu I was encouraged to teach him, on a comrade. He did, essentially making the fight a deathmatch and he lost. When Naruto gets back I'll explain everything and we'll begin his training in earnest. Kakashi said, indifferently. Have you gone mad? No, you will not inform Naruto that I've had you delay him, he must never know I've made such a request. I fail to see why, Hokage-sama. You are retiring, surely you care not for the opinion of a single genin. Besides, I need straighten out my relationship with Naruto. I can't do that unless he knows everything, I'm sure you understand. At this point, the Hokage is weighing the benefits of outright murdering Kakashi, mostly for his casual indifference. Kakashi, I didn't delay Naruto out of a sense of malice. But after everything he has gone through, everything I failed to prevent I fear he may be a risk to the residents here. I know in the past he never fought back, he always tried to evade the villagers but his mastery of the Kage Bushin coupled with some actual skill, he could have assassinated half the council in a night and we'd never be able to prove it. Hell, what would happen the next time a Hyuga elder crossed the line with Hinata? This boy could cause a civil war. So, yes, I wanted him to find his love for the village, to rekindle his will of fire before he started to untap his potential. Only years of practiced professionalism kept Kakashi from scoffing. I don't think his love for the village is the problem. Amazing how you never seem to get that, Hokage-sama. It's actually understandable to not love people that actively hate you. His reasons for being shinobi of the leaf may not be ideal to you, but he never showed signs of wanting retribution. But you were always so willing to cause him immediate harm to avoid what you thought may happen in the future. More of the same, I suppose. You are dangerously close to insubordination, Kakashi. I'll remind you to watch yourself when speaking to me. And I know you aren't happy about Naruto's life up to this point, but I had an entire village to think about, and with what he contains, Naruto having little to no effective attachment to the village is a problem. The last of his professionalism slips. This has been over a decade in the making, and Kakashi lets loose on the aged Hokage. I didn't have an entire village to think about. Tsume-san didn't have an entire village to think about. Makoto didn't either. You kept him away from all those would have happily supported the boy. You left him to the worst this village has to offer and are punishing him for refusing to see the village in a noble light. Any number of people could have given Naruto a loving home. Supposed threats from Iwa or Kumo be damned. No, you chose this for him. You chose his misery and acted like buying him ramen made it okay. Sarutobi hangs his head in shame. When you're making this decision one at a time, you're putting out fires and you don't see a pattern. Yes, taking a step back, I see what I've done. I see how having a limited view of Naruto's well-being and weighing it against the good of the village has put us in this situation. I'm not unaware that I've sinned against the boy, and maybe there were times I shouldn't have reacted as the Hokage but something else, but I've seen 3 shinobi wars and stared into the eyes of a chakra monster as it laid waste to my home. I watched the strongest leaf shinobi since the second have to sacrifice his son in order to stop a massacre beyond understanding. I just couldn't let that happen again. I couldn't let Naruto become a weapon for the clans or a ticking time bomb out for revenge. I couldn't let him be another Orochimaru. And through my duty I watched as the most open boy I've ever met became cold and manipulative. I know his affections for me haven't been sincere for some time now. I just hoped I'd be able to reach him, but the truth is I could never give him the 3 things he wanted most: the reason people hated him, the identity of his parents, or a way to leave the village. With tears in his eyes, Sarutobi continues, when Jiraiya and he return, we'll tell them everything and hopefully Naruto will have a better relationship with my successor. I hope I get to live that long. I'm pretty sure Jiraiya is going to murder me before we have a chance to discuss this, Kakashi states with his signature eye smile. Sarutobi chuckles, I'll make sure to inform him to come straight to my office when he returns so no accidents can occur. And with that, Kakashi shuns away. Moments later, Kakashi appears in a par, and takes a seat on the bench. Jiraiya finally figured out the interrogation tactics ploy. Apparently, neither he nor Naruto are happy about it. That was a dangerous gamble. I could see how one wouldn't approve. You could have broken the boy, the elderly man stated. Kakashi smiles through his mask. If his life in this village hasn't broke Naruto, being taunted by Sasuke wasn't going to do it. Besides, it was a test of Sasuke's emotional stability. Clearly he failed and I would have had grounds to get him off my team. I guess your no half measures philosophy really stuck with Naruto. I was expecting hell, I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that. Who grafts an exploding seal on a kunai? Speaking of, what exactly did you teach him? The boy is predictably unpredictable. Such an enigma used to make me uncomfortable. Now I just enjoy watching him give Sarutobi headaches. As far as what I taught him, since that fool Jiraiya was supposedly training him, I had to stick to ninjutsu and battle strategy. Best use of his shadow clones. I won't get into specifics, but since he already wants to fight you, I'm sure you can bait him into revealing some of his cards. Just watch out for his kunai, the old man laughed. Hi, Danzo-sama, have you been waiting long? No, Jiraiya-sama, I've only just arrived myself. Haven't even had time to order a drink, not that I drink. Good, good. We can keep this one brief. I need to get back to the kid, but if we're going to continue, I'm going to need some assurances. Itachi stays quiet. He understands Jiraiya's implicit threat. Being threatened as a shinobi is just part of the deal, implicit or otherwise. What makes this worthy of note, however, is that Itachi knows Jiraiya doesn't threaten people. It's one of the factors about this man that unnerves the fallen Uchiha. While Itachi would never say it, there may be more powerful shinobi than Jiraiya, but none of them makes Itachi as on edge as Jiraiya. For the longest time, Itachi could never pinpoint why that is, Unanswered questions like this can drive a prodigy to distraction, but with this threat Itachi finally knows why he'd rather have a 2-day conversation with Pain about peace than a 20-minute update with Jiraiya. The Sannin has never treated Itachi like he's an S-rank shinobi. His tone never cautious, just natural. His body language always relaxed, almost insultingly so. While Itachi wasn't arrogant like much of his clan, he still had pride, damn it. Jiraiya just seemed all around unconcerned with Itachi, and this realization that Jiraiya simply had been unconcerned with what Itachi may do would be enough to upset even the ever-stoic Itachi if it weren't coupled immediately with the realization that Jiraiya didn't need to be concerned with Itachi might do. This epiphany finally makes its way around back to the initial insight, Jiraiya letting it be known he may very well kill Itachi if he isn't given adequate reason not to. I don't blame Naruto for what he did, not fully. So much of what I've done has been for my village and Sasuke. I'm at a loss, but I was informed on his fight. The tactic Sasuke used, if it failed there was a good chance it would cause Naruto to kill him in a blind rage. Sasuke using Kakashi's damned assassination jutsu didn't help matters. I can't expect anyone to allow themselves to be killed for the sake of my foolish little brother, especially not Naruto. He has nothing to worry about from me outside of my role as a double agent, of this I am sure. Jiraiya stares intently at Itachi as if he's trying to find even the smallest hint of dishonesty in the boy's words. When he is satisfied he cannot, he starts to go but leaves Itachi with this, "You know, I hear a certain snake is in town. He surely didn't help with your brother's mental stability. Might be a good outlet to channel some of those feelings toward, after I conclude my business with him. Something to think about." And with that Jiraiya departs. In a clearing just outside of town we find a horde of Naruto clones attempting to complete the final stage of the Rasengan. Tsunade sees the controlled chaos and amongst the clones sees one sitting in the lotus position, assuming that to be the original she approaches, which Naruto senses. "Hello Tsunade-san, is there something I can do for you?" "Not initially. I just didn't feel like being cooped up at that inn all day. Whenever Jiraiya finds me he never allows me to drink or gamble in peace, so I have to find alternative methods to spend my days, until he leaves." "Do you know why we haven't left yet?" "You gave him your answer. I'm not entirely sure what else we're here for. Not that I'm in any rush to head back, mind you. Orochimaru contacted me just a few hours before Jiraiya and you found me. Jiraiya asked me to help him spring a trap on our former teammate and try to deal with him once and for all. I may not want to return to the village, but it doesn't mean I want it to burn, and I haven't had a decent fight in ages, so I figured why not. Ah, is all that Naruto says. So, I see your clones are trying to finish the Rasengan, but what are you doing? When I discovered that my shadow clones could transfer memory I was elated at the potential, but what I quickly discovered was not only the harms of dispersing too many clones at once, but also I found it hard to retrieve certain bits of information. Facts and figures, mostly as skills or jutsu I'd be using shortly, were easier to recall. I figured since I don't have a photographic memory I'd need to find a way to store this information, and it just so happens the Konoha library had a book on developing a mind palace. It took about a week of my clones experimenting before I got it down. So now, I supercharge fewer clones, allow them to make more clones, and while they are gaining information or training for the day, the initial supercharged clones are stored the information for easier recall. Tsunade looked impressed at Naruto's answer, but quickly her thoughts turned to someone else who used to amass a great deal of knowledge and power, scorned by the village, and how he eventually turned on Konoha, bringing an invading force to destroy it. Tsunade hoped Naruto wasn't on the same path. "Naruto, why do you train so hard? I know it isn't for the sake of the village, so what drives you?" Naruto his an eyebrow at Tsunade's seemingly direct question, taking a few beats before answering. "I'm not sure I have just one reason, Tsunade-san. Part of it is so I can protect myself, however I'm more than enough for any group of civilians, and outside of the invasion I doubt a fellow shinobi would attack inside the village. Part of me loves learning about the shinobi arts, I find them fascinating, how the seemingly impossible becomes possible. Another reason is because of my first C rank mission. What happened? Normal C ranks are just dealing with bandits and such, nothing major. Naruto laughs. Almost everything that could go wrong on this mission did. Naruto proceeds to tell Tsunade about his time in Wave Country. And people say I have bad luck. That's quite the story, Naruto. It is, but I'm glad it happened. I know that as shinobi we often do questionable things for questionable reasons. Helping the people of Wave likely will never be what shinobi primarily do. But maybe it could be more of what we do. The idea of helping people who can't help themselves and helping them to help themselves appeals to me. Wave is free now, what they become is entirely up to them, and ultimately it's because they found it within themselves to act. You sound like Jiraiya. Ever since we were kids, he spoke about shinobi and our ability to be more, to be heroes. It's funny to see that reflected in his apprentice, I'm guessing without him even knowing it. I suppose so. Although I wonder why he gave up his chance to see that future. Something like what you both talk about can only be accomplished if you become Hokage, and I know Sensei would have asked him first. I may have some insight on this, but I'm pretty sure Jiraiya wouldn't be pleased if I told you. Naruto, that just means you have to tell me, so spill. Okay, when we were traveling to find you he told me he was offered the position. I asked why he turned it down and he gave some stock answer about his spy network. Obviously bull, but I let it go. Later that night, we arrive in some small town and check into an inn. Jiraiya immediately leaves and returns a few hours later drunk off his but still lucid enough to converse with. Seeing my opportunity, I asked him again why he turned it down. Jiraiya stated that him being Hokage would be of a similar mold. The cages are always known for their destructive capabilities. He said that you have something no other cage has, not only the power to protect your village, but because you are known as a healer you can help people, starting seeing shinobi as more. Jiraiya theorized that as long as cages are chosen primarily on battle capabilities, war is inevitable. Tsunade can only sit there in stunned silence. While she often treats Jiraiya like an annoyance and a pervert, a pattern they established early as a genin team, she knows there are depths to him that people rarely see, but to think he'd place this much faith in her was astounding. Maybe she could. It enhances the legend. Wait, he honestly said that? Yes. He looked me dead in the eyes and said that. How did you respond? Jiraiya, how do you respond to something like that? I just stared at him and me and then asked if he really just said that. He replied, with all seriousness, Tsunade-san, when you're going to be the best to ever do it, concerns about sticking out become immaterial. Jiraiya can barely contain his laughter at the exchange between his apprentice and teammate. Jiraiya, himself, had attempted to get the young shinobi to let go of that orange jumpsuit, but to no avail. Naruto actually lectured Jiraiya on the absurdity of criticizing the jumpsuit. Points ranging from, what kind of sense does it make to look like a shinobi if avoiding attention is your goal? To, I'm having a fight in a stadium full of people, stealth will hardly be an issue, pervy sage. You doubting the orange makes me question your greatness. After that he vowed to just leave the topic alone, guessing everyone who meets Naruto has to learn this particular lesson. Suheim, you have to admit that Kushina would have said something similar. Hell, for all I know, she had said something similar at some point. Girl didn't suffer from a lack of confidence. Thinking back on the Uzumaki, Tsunade smiles fondly. No, she really didn't. The room falls silent. Jiraiya notices Tsunade seems to be building up to say something, seeing the internal conflict play out on her face. I was happy in my misery, you know. Then you two show up. Why couldn't you have just left me alone? But no, you and the kid come here and now I'm actually considering going back. Damn it. You always do this, Jiraiya. I always do what? You put ridiculous notions in people's heads, like peace in the elemental nations, and you're so goddamn sure you make people want to believe you. But what does peace for shinobi look like? We order children to slit slightly fewer throats. You don't know, but you filled that kid's head with your nonsense. and he reminds me of Naoki in so many ways, but also what Naoki could have been if exposed to the darkness too long. Naruto, he's like afraid of his natural brightness, the sun that prefers cloudy days, and I don't understand how my village, the legacy of my grandfather, could do that to a child. You want me to go back, but I know nothing of the village, so how can I lead it? Why are you sticking me with this? I don't know what Naruto has said to you, but I'm not sticking you with anything. I wouldn't be leaving you alone, but you are the best for the position. You must realize it since you don't claim otherwise. Tsunade, it's time to come home. It's time to give Shizune the option to settle down. And it's time for you to save your family's legacy. Sensei has been consumed with his failures and prevention to focus on positive change. I believe Naruto is a result of that and my own negligence. I'm his godfather and I trusted Sensei to take care of my responsibilities because looking at a chibi Minato was too hard. I replay that conversation he had with you, how much of his life is dictated by fear. I need that to change. I believe he's the child of prophecy. Every time in the past I believed I found him, I trained them but left the hard parts to them and each fell before they could truly make a change. I don't want to do that this time. I can't just give Naruto the weight of the world and tell him to figure it out. I also can't leave it to him if he doesn't see the world as worth saving. Did you notice he never refers to Minato as his father, only his title? I think he resents Minato and his sacrifice. He may very well resent Sensei, too. If Naruto remains isolated, he may not be willing to do what is required of him. So, you're using us both for your own goals. Yes. If that's really how you see it, then yes, I'm using you. Seriously, Tsunade, you aren't a puppet. I just think you both can make positive changes to the village and the shinobi system if given enough time and support. There isn't any hidden schemes here. I'm pretty open about why I want you to come back. But you aren't with him. Are you going to tell him you believe he's the savior? No, because he's not ready yet. I need him to become more attached to the village, to believe the will of fire is more than the source of his misery. When that changes, then I can tell him about all of this. Tsunade, never known for her patience, is quickly running out. It has been the source of his misery. You needing him to not be aware of it before you reveal your scheme doesn't change that. And what about considering what he needs? You know, like having his opinions validated. Someone acknowledging he's gotten a raw deal, that he was denied even the memory of his parents. You may believe he has this grand destiny, but how can you show up after a decade-plus absence and then just shove this on him? It's not fair. Are you sure you're coming back, because it doesn't sound like it? As far as Naruto, I'm not going around in circles with you. Sometimes you're called for a larger purpose, regardless of if you want it or not. The kid is meant for more and I intend to start preparing him for it. Hypocrite. I'm sorry, Tsunade, what was that? I'm pretty sure hearing is important for a spy, so you heard me. I think you're asking me for a justification, which I'm more than happy to oblige. You say people are sometimes called to serve, yes. As you were, tasked with looking after a small child with no support network. It seems you had very little issue not answering that call, but you managed to tell others to it up and deal with it. That makes you, among other things, a hypocrite. Hypocrite or not doesn't make the argument any less valid. My having failed in the past doesn't give Naruto the right to do so in the future. Oh, so you have his life all planned out now. I'm sure he'll appreciate a heads up. It'll simplify things, not having to make very many choices, and won't conflict at all with his overriding need for freedom. Or in 5 years he'll snap and kill everyone he holds responsible for his enslavement, if he doesn't get himself killed, because there is freedom in death. To this, Jiraiya can only look on, mortified. He knows she isn't wrong but can only hope Naruto is the child of prophecy and isn't irreparably harmed to the point of choosing the wrong path. Taking a moment to collect himself, Jiraiya responds, I can't ignore what he may potentially be, it isn't an option. I can try to make it up to him, try to give him now what I couldn't then, but it'll have to be enough. Sometimes not good enough has to be enough. Is it unfair? Yes, It is, and he may resent me for it for the rest of his life, but the world doesn't care. His enemies don't care, and time doesn't stop because he got the short end of the stick. The short end of the stick. You arrogant asshole, that's what you call my life. Quote. N. Naruto. How long have you been here? Long enough to learn I have a new Hokage, a godfather, and some bullshit destiny that I will bend to or else. So, not that long. Hey, Tsunade-san, congratulations. We should find Shizune-san and celebrate. Naruto, I know this sounded bad, but please let me explain. What is there to explain, sensei? You say I have to do something and I have to do it. If not, you won't train me, and there aren't a lot of people that could train you to fight S-class shinobi, so I either obey or you leave me to get killed. More of the same, I suppose. So, Tsunade-san, what are you up for? My treat. Although, I guess I should start calling you Tsunade-sama, huh? Both Sannin can only look at the orange-clad ninja, neither knowing what to say. Naruto takes note of being studied, hoping they'll say something if he waits long enough. However, a lifetime of glares has left him with a low tolerance for being blankly looked at, so he continues. Why are you staring at me? It feels weird. If you need some time to decide, I can come back in a bit, see what Shizune is up to. Nay. Naruto, you heard some things before you were ready, and I'm sorry for that and for being entirely dismissive of my life, one you made a point to not be a part of. Naruto interrupted. Yes, that. I'm so. No, you aren't. Which is fine. On no grounds can I actively fight a Sannin, so you'll get your way, but don't apologize for failing to manipulate me, it's inherently contradictory. I wasn't going to manipulate you. Yes, you were, Jiraiya. Tsunade chimes in. It seems like you and Sensei both string information along to Naruto when you think he will respond as you want him to. That's manipulation. Be honest, would you have told him about his parents if he didn't already know? Would you have told him you're his godfather anytime soon? I would have, when he was ready. This information leaking could be dangerous. To this Naruto could only laugh. So, I'm trusted to be a shinobi. I'm trusted to try to earn a promotion, to receive increased security clearance and keep it a secret, but not know about things no one had any right to keep from me. Also, if I'm your student, isn't the very act of being around you dangerous? I hate people who lie to themselves. You were going to string along information when I demonstrated I was sufficiently obedient. Just like Sarutobi, and hell, probably Kakashi if his plan wasn't to outright get me killed. What I don't get is the need to be so sneaky about it. I know what you want, I'm going to do it, so why continue to hide things from me? Because Naruto, it doesn't work like that. You aren't doing this out of love for your village or a sense of duty. You need to have those things to accomplish what I believe you can accomplish. As you are now, you're biding your time until presented with a better option. You may insist otherwise, you may even believe it, but I've been around too long to not see it. If people don't have something deeper driving them, something more than acquiescence, they won't have the determination to see it through to the end. Making you more powerful isn't enough. Tell me, Naruto, what do you believe in? That's none of your concern. But it is, and since she's going to be Hokage, it's her concern too. So, answer the question. Or if it is too broad, at least tell me if you believe in the will of fire. I've never seen the will of fire to know if I believe it or not. Nice dodge, Naruto, but conceptually, do you believe in the will of fire? Do you believe it is a viable philosophy? I believe it's a bullshit lie that cost me my parents for trash that wasn't worth their sacrifice. You happy? Can we go eat now? You never talk to me this much. Not even when you're supposedly training me can I hold your attention this long. I'm uncomfortable with the shift in dynamic. This isn't a joke, Naruto. Hi, Sensei. Naruto, for the first time after a long silence, Tsunade speaks up. Do you resent the village? Hi, but what about those you care for? What about what you learned during your mission in Wave? Having precious people in a hostile environment is giving people like Sarutobi and Jiraiya hostages or leverage. They'll eventually find a way to take them away from me because they always do, and since Jiraiya wants me to be a weapon for the village, how can I do that and protect those I care about from them? Blind obedience would seem to be the answer, and yet I'm being told it isn't enough. I need to lie to myself and call it something else. People always call me an idiot. My stupid teammates loved nothing more than to call me dead last, and yet I'm actively punished for demonstrating self-awareness. I can't win. You, Naruto, pointing to Jiraiya, probably preferred the little hyperactive idiot that was filled with so much love for his village he'd do anything to earn their approval. As if I have anything to prove to them. Every word of Naruto's answer pierced Jiraiya's heart. Hearing how angry and resentful he is toward not only the village or Sarutobi but him as well hurts the Sannin more than he could ever articulate. Searching desperately for any argument that could sway Naruto but is coming up empty. The Toad Sage for the first time is truly afraid that all the choices made for Naruto have started him on a dark path, one they won't be able to change. Conversations with his sensei about the threat Naruto poses to the village are swimming in his head. Could sensei have been right? Jiraiya wonders. Tsunade, looking at the young ninja, sees not just her younger brother in Naruto but also sees a lot of herself. The fear of loss and sense of abandonment laced in Naruto's words were the same things that drove her away all those years ago. She understands that while it may take years for him to fully deal with these emotions, if left unchecked or handled improperly right now, the harm may be irrevocable. Tsunade decides on a risky gambit. Naruto, how do you feel about your parents? I don't understand the question, I know very little about them. Hell, my mother may as not even exist as much as she's not mentioned in the village. Why do you ask, Tsunade-san? I'll answer that when you answer my question. How do you, right now, feel about them? Why does it matter? No one cared if I even knew who they were, so why does it matter? I told you I'd answer that when answer my question. Well, I'm not answering it. I'll be back later, I'm going to train. Jiraiya grabs Naruto by the shoulders before he can leave. Naruto, you need to answer the question. To hell with you, Jiraiya. I don't need to answer it, it's not important. It doesn't matter how I feel, it sure didn't matter to them. They left me alone. They chose the village over me and left me with people that were at best indifferent. They left me with no protection, no safeguards, but with an expectation I'd serve the village. They were cowards, they should have killed me, too. But they didn't, and they set the standard that everyone and everything takes priority over me. There, you happy? I hate them. They should have chose me. I needed them and it didn't matter. I need them and it doesn't matter. I'm alone and the people who should be here chose not to be, and if that wasn't enough, the Yondaime cursed me on his way out the door. Naruto, it wasn't like that. Minato and Kushina, they loved you and I'm sure he sealed the Kyuubi in you because he believed in you. I don't care. I don't care if they loved me. I don't care if they believed in me. The love of dead people is worthless. If they loved me so much they would have found a way to stay with me, but they didn't. They chose the village and I'll always hate them for it. So, are we all happy now? You have even more reason to keep things from me or stall my progress, because I'd rather have your precious village burned to the ground if the cost of saving it was the life I've led. And now, having said this in front of the future Hokage, I get to go back to a potentially openly hostile village and wait for what the old man will do once you report this. God, guess I've given him reason to order that loyalty seal put on me, huh? At the mention of a loyalty seal, Tsunade and Jiraiya both look stunned. Tsunade manages to speak first. Naruto, I get that the village has made you suffer, but you don't honestly think Sensei would do that, do you? Why not? Wouldn't be the first time, would it, Jiraiya? Wonder what you and the Yamanaka would cook up this time to make sure I'm a good boy. Jiraiya, what is he talking about? It's not what you think. Sensei was trying to protect Naruto. Protect me? Bullshit. He was trying to control me and you gave him what he wanted. Tell her, Jiraiya. Tell her how I screamed and begged you to stop, to just leave me be. Only for 5 years later, when I refused to use the very power you all made me afraid of, you threw me off a cliff. So, you're in contact with it. Tsunade, what Jiraiya is refusing to tell you is that when I was 8 I managed to meet the Kyuubi while trying to unlock my chakra. I talked to him and while he was all around unhappy to be sealed in an I quote, a weak-ass kit, it was nicer to me than the villagers. I was so happy to finally know why they hated me that like the good little idiot I was I went to the person I trusted most and told him. Jiraiya, would you like to cover the rest? How you, Sarutobi and Inoichi snuck into my apartment under the cover of darkness. How I was only awakened because Kyuubi warned me. How the Hokage held me down as I begged him to stop, while he kept saying it was for my own good. Or how much pain the seal caused, how I screamed to make it stop. No. How about the suggestion Inoichi placed in my head after locking away the memory? Fear the Kyuubi. Don't trust it. Be defiant toward it. Although I shouldn't be surprised. According to the Kyuubi, Sarutobi had you do the same thing to my mother. Injury is a fact of life for shinobi. You come to accept that breaks, sprains, lacerations and all manner of trauma will be inflicted upon you. Live long enough and you'll likely have at least one occurrence of every type of injury. Living through this is as much being a shinobi as any jutsu for shinobi or people who endure. Why, though, did it have to be the ribs? Tsunade could have given him a concussion or even cracked a kneecap. No, she had to break his kami-forsaken ribs. Struggling to get to a bed, Jiraiya realizes his focus on the mind-numbing pain he's currently experiencing may seem a little galling given the discussion he just had with his best friend, teammate and godson, but he can't find it in himself to care. Broke ribs make egoists of us all, a wise man has likely said. Finally making it to the bed, Jiraiya tries to find the least uncomfortable position he can and starts to breathe slowly. Closing his eyes, Jiraiya starts to feel the nature chakra all around him. After several minutes he enters sage mode and with pain now dulled he starts to digest what just happened. Jiraiya, you didn't. It's not what you think. We were only trying to protect Naruto and the village. We couldn't risk the Kyuubi influencing him. You didn't have that concern during the Chunin finals, it was perfectly safe for me to access it then. Because I was there to watch you. I couldn't stay with you when you were young and had no training, so sensei thought it'd be. Sensei. Always ing sensei with you. You're a grown man, one that hopes to change the shinobi world, but you can't ing stand up to your sensei. Listen, Tsunade. I argued him down from the loyalty seal to just a memory containment seal. Just a memory containment seal. Okay. Tsunade crosses the room and fires a left hook at Jiraiya before he can act. I just broke several of your ribs. Jiraiya hits the ground like a stone, struggling to get a decent breathe in. It's not her reaction that shocks Jiraiya, although she's clearly been keeping her skills polished, but what's missing from it? Tsunade's anger has always been like a hurricane, no subtlety. You know when she's mad and it's never been particularly hard to get her to that state, but this is different. She's calm, too calm. She's either keeping a lid on it because she's beyond pissed and I may actually be in danger, or she's trying to keep calm for Naruto. God, I hope it's the latter, Jiraiya surmises. Fine, poor choice of words. The Kyuubi is wholly unknown. The only people who can really interact with it are the containers. Sensei just wanted some security measures in place to make sure they weren't negatively affected. He only considered the loyalty seal for Naruto due to the differences in the access to the Kyuubi, since Naruto was always meant to eventually access the Kyuubi's chakra. Or Sensei knew how Naruto was treated and decided it was easier to make a small child deal with it than get his village in check. Did Minato know you did this to Kushina? No, he never knew, and given the location of the seal it wouldn't be easily seen. We thought we were giving you the means to fight the Kyuubi, to make sure you were always in control. Naruto, concerning you we've made so many mistakes, but I need you to know I never wanted you to be a weapon. Sensei didn't either, but we had hoped you could be the village's guardian. Its protector. You and the old man, always with your word games. What's the difference between guardian or weapon if I have no choice in the matter? You both were trying to control something you didn't understand and violated me to do it. Naruto, can you find Shizune and go to the bar we first met? I'll be there shortly. Without responding, Naruto leaves. I don't think I can make this up to him. I've lost my last connection to Minato, haven't I? I have no idea. I don't know if he can forgive you, nor do I know if he should. Jiraiya, I understand why you did it. Sensei was always larger than life to us and you always had to work harder to gain his approval, but was this worth it? Look, I'll see what I can do as far as the kid, and I'll have Shizune heal you when we get back. We still need to plan what we'll do with our wayward teammate. Don't bother. You said the meet was in 3 days. I initially wanted to face him personally, but we need to get back to the village and Naruto isn't in the right headspace for direct combat. I'll make arrangements and on the day of the meet we'll just leave. Fine. I'll see you later, Jiraiya. Once he had fully thought about the conversation, Jiraiya is left with 2 questions. How did he allow himself to do these things and how can he make it up to Naruto? Neither answer came to him that night, nor did any sleep. Jiraiya wasn't the only being kept up by the day's events, as Naruto was also finding sleep elusive. Attempting to clear his mind, Naruto attempts to meditate and finds himself in his mindscape. You're thinking too loud and I can't get any sleep. Sorry, Kurama, just a lot on my mind. I'm aware. You want to talk about it? Not that I care, but I really want to get some sleep. Hey, if you wouldn't mind. I'd normally go to Shino with this kind of thing, but a 100-year-old chakra beast is just as good. Thanks. Anyway, organize your thoughts and we'll tackle the ones you're struggling with the most first. Honestly, it's what Tsunade said. I can't discount what she said, but I don't know if I have that in me, at least right now. That's understandable. Talking the full measure of a person, acknowledging the good and the bad before you make a decision about them isn't something many of your kind try to do, so even an attempting is noteworthy. Don't expect to master it in a night. You're right, and she is too, but that leads me to my godfather. What about him? I believe he isn't a villain. He's up, for sure, but I believe Tsunade when she says he likely wasn't operating out of malice. I've never sensed that from him, so fine. He did these things to me with the best of intentions. Does that matter? Does the fact that he was following orders mean he wasn't truly responsible? I don't know. I just don't know, and it's maddening because 3 hours ago I was so clear about it. I hated him. He was just another name in the list of assholes that hurt me for no reason, but now. I don't know. Maybe not knowing is okay. A great deal of harm comes from people making decisions because they couldn't accept the unknown. Apparently your Hokage is extremely uncomfortable with it. Yay, apparently. So how would you go about accepting not knowing, not being sure? It feels indecisive. But it isn't being indecisive. Whatever you choose to feel about Jiraiya or anyone else is ultimately up to you, but you don't have to form an opinion on forgiving him immediately. And don't make an example out of Jiraiya to prove something to yourself. What the hell do you mean by that? Simply don't force yourself to do something contrary to who you really are. I have access to your internal monologue, remember? Not much you can hide from me. So, I should just be the fool. Forgiveness is neither inherently virtuous nor foolish, it depends on the context. Refusing to forgive and not being able to are entirely different. I'm only suggesting you recognize that fact and don't try to carry resentments you don't actually hold. Hate is as hard for you to hold onto as it is for me to get rid of. You had a perfect opportunity to express your hatred toward the villagers, but you saved many. Even though you were scared, you still helped where you could. It just felt right. Despite most of those villagers treating me like I didn't exist, I just can't watch people die and not act. It's just. Your empathy is admirable, Naruto. Instead of wishing you didn't have it, learn to temper it with your experiences. Not everyone can be saved, nor should everyone be condemned. Easier said than done. Yes, but once you figure it out, it'll only enhance the legend further. Ha ha ha. Okay, I think my hour's about up. Anything else, Doc? Just 2 things, and you may not like either. Understand that I don't care before you react. The first is about you using my chakra. Okay, what about it? I want you to stop. The power you pull from me now is corrupted and you'll never control it the way you access it now. Also, the people after you are all S-class shinobi and none of them have a biju to fall back on. If you're going to be my container, then rely on yourself. Break every limit you have and break them again until you can stand tall against all that oppose you. Once you can do that, you'll fight me for control. Win and you'll have true access to my chakra and we'll be true partners as long as you don't make me a crutch. Fair. I have no problem with that. Good. The second thing is, I think it'll soon be time for you to meet your parents. Wah. 3 days later. Looking toward the sky, Jiraiya laments the silence he is enduring with the once hyperactive ninja, a silence not being helped by the addition of Tsunade and Shizune. Over the last 3 days, Jiraiya has had a lot of time to think about his choices in regards to Naruto and his relationship with his sensei in general. He couldn't help but come to the conclusion that Tsunade was right. For too long he let the dynamic established between the elder Sarutobi and himself when he was a child to dictate how he interacted as an adult. An adult that has loved, lost and seen 2 wars. The pain of these conclusions is that they are essentially meaningless. Sarutobi is retiring, Jiraiya asserting himself now is entirely hollow, and this Naruto would be able to realize that, making promises to do better in the future utterly meaningless. However, never being able to have a relationship with his godson isn't something he can accept to himself. The irony of having being absent, seeming disinterest in his training and every other thing he's done to or allowed to happen to Naruto is something he is keenly aware of. Finally, he sees the sign and hopes travel will pull him out of this current loop. Guys, that's the signal, we can head out. And with that, the group heads back to Konoha, all wary of the confrontations that await. 5 minutes earlier, in the clearing where Tsunade was to meet Orochimaru, we find 2 figures standing over 2 corpses. One covered in black flames, the other having his head thoroughly smashed. One figure looks over the scene, seeming introspective, and remarks to his partner. "That was kinda cold, don't you think? You know I hate it when you do that, Itachi. Use your words. That's how people communicate, and you're a people." "Fine, Kisame, what in the act of ruthlessly murdering these 2 do you find to be especially repugnant? You didn't let him get any final words." "Well, I am a shinobi. Some may say a pretty good one. Okay, and I get that, but when you went rogue, you kinda agreed to some norms that we missing nin follow. Some like Orochimaru deserved some last words, it's simple etiquette. You cannot be serious." "I'm entirely serious. Look, Itachi, there are certain things that come with this lifestyle and the guys notice when you choose to not fit in. This better not be about that art show. Kisame, I swear to Kami I'm not having this argument again. It's not art." He blows shit up. What is there to see? You could have shown up to be supportive, be part of the team. You know, most of those guys aren't half bad, and you'd know that if you wouldn't close yourself off. It wouldn't hurt to try is all I'm saying. "Fine, I'll try, okay. Sensitive criminals, why don't you all just do a hug circle and be done with it? We do it every time we're all in one place, you'd know that if you'd participate." "You can't be. I need to signal Jiraiya and then see if I can somehow make myself forget this conversation." "You're so cold, Itachi-kun." 1 week later. One would find the sight fascinating if it weren't so depressing. For the entire trip Naruto was full of energy, making conversation with Tsunade and Shizune. He reveled in having travel companions that actually valued his company. What a novel concept. However, as the gates of the village came into view, the change was drastic. Naruto became quiet, his body looked as if every step was increasingly weighed down. It appeared as if proximity to the village caused him actual pain. The 3 adults all frowned at the change in body language. Trying to be encouraging, Tsunade places her hand on Naruto's shoulder and gives him a smile. He smiles back, it's small but sincere. He may not have many people that support him, and a part of him wonders for how long he'll be able to have Tsunades and Shizunes, but he's decided he will appreciate and enjoy it for as long as he does. The two guards ask the group to check in, Naruto thinks. They actually sound miles away. His eyes are focused on his final destination. The old monkey and the Cyclops await, and the only question on his mind is how bad he'll burn the bridges between them. Closer and closer the building gets. This building at one time offered solace, as he knew a supportive person was waiting behind its walls. But as time moved on, it became a representation of the false life he was forced to live. Even his Gigi lied to him. How can he trust anyone if he couldn't trust his grandfather? How can he really trust Tsunade? He immediately dismisses the thought, although wondering if his mistrust in the position of Hokage is a final attempt to give the man he once adored an excuse, and out for his actions and inactions, protecting himself from getting too close to these new people, or possibly both. A part of him knows it's too late. He's felt Tsunade a kindred spirit since that discussion at the bar. Not for the first time he wishes he were better at keeping people at arm's length. Some may say that his act was just such a method, but Naruto knows better. When everyone else lies to you, you cannot afford to lie to yourself. Yes, he presented a heightened version of himself, but the rejection from his peers or the village in general still hurt. It still does, and he hates that they have that power. He hates that he cares, at least he wishes he didn't. But caring is what allowed him to connect to Haku, who helped Naruto develop his Nindo. It's what allowed him to talk Gaara out of attacking the village and gaining a new friend. Before he knows it, all four are in Sarutobi's office, along with Kakashi. Guess we're doing this now then, he thinks as he waits for the discussion to unfold. Tsunade-chan, it's so good to see you. I'm glad you agreed to return. I'm glad I got to see you back in the village before my time was up, stated the elderly Hokage. Hi, Tsunade replied. Okay, I know you've been traveling, but we have some things to resolve, so I thought it best we do it now before there are any misunderstandings. First, did you run into any trouble during the retrieval? Orochimaru tried to recruit Tsunade. He's now dead, though, so there's that. You managed to kill him. No, I had my top men on it. Who? Top men. Okay. So other than that, anything to report? To this, Sarutobi is met with silence. And more silence. Not one for awkward silences. Naruto speaks up. Yes, I know who my parents are. I know you slapped a seal on me and had that Yamanaka bastard mess with my memories. I know Kakashi tried to get the Tem to break me psychologically, and I know you're one hateful, fearful old man. Startled to say the least, Sarutobi doesn't know how to respond, so he tries to deflect. How do you know these things? At least you aren't denying it, so there's that. Oh, I also know you did the same thing to Kushina, my mother, and Minato never knew. I would wonder what he'd do, but he orphaned his kid on the day of his birth, so I'm leaning towards he'd be fine with it. Village first and all that. Naruto, you need to understand that a shinobi is to have complete loyalty to the village. I could never be sure of that with that thing sealed inside of you. I just never wanted you to fall under its sway. Or you didn't want your scapegoat to have the ability to fight back, to be dependent upon you for protection and strength until you decided otherwise, replied a visibly annoyed Tsunade. It would certainly explain why you ordered me to not train Naruto except for the bare minimum. Sensei, you didn't. Jiraiya, it's not what you think. I couldn't let Naruto increase his abilities without knowing, for certain, that he was loyal to the village above all. The village are you. Damn it. They were right. You wanted him to be your weapon, something no better than a slave. And I helped you do it. I put his life at risk because I trusted you, believed you'd never harm Minato's son. What would you have me do? He's a threat. Why do you all refuse to see it? I see it. Behind those fake smiles and empty boasts, I saw the internal calculations behind his eyes. Cataloging every wrong done to him. How can I have someone that hates the village be put in a position to harm it? I can't make that mistake again. He's not Orochimaru, damn it. You've tortured him and stunted his development because you can't let go of your mistakes. If you were so incapable of letting go of your previous failures, why take the position back for 13 years? That's rich, Tsunade. And who was I to give the position to? You were gone. We needed Jiraiya in the field and no one else short of Danzo had the qualifications. So, it was up to me to keep the village safe. Maybe some of my methods were extreme, but no matter how you all feel about it, the suffering of one little boy is not more important than the village. You aren't even sorry. You let my life be hell and you aren't even sorry about it. You're so concerned with other people being like Orochimaru you never considered that he was just a lot like you. Watch your mouth, Naruto. Or what? You'll place more seals on me until I behave. Beat me into submission. Is that really how you see me? Am I just a villain to you, Naruto? In the background a poorly stifled chuckle is heard. The room turns in collective shock to see Shizune laughing, derisively at the Hokage's question. Is something funny, Shizune? Hi, Hokage-sama. Naruto once said he gets punished for being self-aware and it's just amazing to see it in action. You emotionally tortured the heir of an Hokage because of you couldn't handle your own failures nor bother to control your village. It was easier to let them hate him. It was easier to punish his alleged lack of loyalty. You never questioned if he had reason to remain loyal. You never tried to give him a reason, but you demand he make you feel better about doing very little to aid him. Naruto, you don't have to stay here for this, it'll just go in circles. Why not escort me home? Okay, Shizune-san. Oh, and Kakashi-sensei, are you free tomorrow? I am. Meet me at our usual training ground at our usual time, I won't be late. And with that the two exit. How soon can I assume my duties? You can start now if you want. Retirement sounds good. Fine. Do it, officially or unofficially. Why so eager? Because my first declaration as Hokage is that you are to not to approach Genin Uzumaki Naruto nor have any dealings in his affairs unless he initiates it from this day forward. You've done enough, Sarutobi, but your days of harming that boy are over. You can't do that. If you deny me all contact, I'll never be able to make him understand why I did it. It was for the best, for him to discover his will of fire. How can you when you're the reason he doesn't have it? Just stay away from him, give him some peace while I try to undo the damage you've done. Naruto can be a fine shinobi one day if you don't continue to treat him like an enemy. And while we're at it, I'm going to request you stay away from all shinobi matters. I don't know what happened to you, sensei, but I think you need some time away from all of this. So, you're turning your back on me, too. And what about you, Jiraiya? You've always understood I was just doing what any Hokage should. No, not anymore. Following you, blindly, has cost me and I'm not sure I'll ever recover what I've lost. My belief in you has resulted in the last of my family not trusting me in the slightest. Both Sanin exit the office, leaving a once proud leader looking old and defeated. With an unshed tear he wonders, why can't they see? It was all for the greater good. The next morning finds Naruto waiting at Training Ground 7 for Kakashi. Shockingly, Kakashi showed up 5 minutes after Naruto arrived. Yo! Naruto bristled at the casual greeting, in no mood for Kakashi's usual antics. No offense, sensei, but this has been a shit month and given what you tried to do during the Chunin exams I've been sitting on a deep need to punch you in the face. Understandable. So, let me get started. Sandaime-sama ordered me to not train you, after years of not allowing me to adopt you. The only way I saw to show him how absurd he was being was to heighten the contradiction. Did I think Sasuke could break you with the general information I gave him? No, not at all. Did I think the little psycho would try to kill you with my Chidori? No, I only wanted to point out how careless he was being with your life in a way he'd understand. The thing neither of us predicted is the very thing none of us can, you. An explosive ceiling array on a kunai. Who does that, you little maniac? Seemed like a good idea at the time. Naruto said with a shrug. Why didn't he let you adopt me? You're nominally part of a clan but not a major one, no offense. Since when do you say things like nominally? I'm smarter than I let on and I have a lot more of those exploding kunai, so let's stay focused, nay. Noted. As for why he didn't let me adopt you, do you recall those 2 worst attacks? Yes. You ever see any of those people again? Quote. No. Nor would you have. Sandame was concerned about how I'd react to your mistreatment. How are you still a shinobi, then? 1. No one could prove a thing. 2. Even if they could, I'm a borderline S-ranked shinobi. Every village has special rules for shinobi like me. How do you think Tsunade and Jiraiya were allowed to be out of the village for so long? Oh, and don't buy Jiraiya's bullshit about his spy network. No other major village's spymaster runs their network like that. The Hokage allowed it because it's better to do so than have them labeled as missing nin and turn on us. Okay, so a lot of my dissatisfaction can be placed on Sarutobi, as if I need more reason to hate the old monkey. I can accept this. Naruto replies before narrowing his eyes. However, you tried to use Hinata against me. Even if Sasuke didn't know who or what he was referencing, I did, and I don't appreciate you doing it, even to prove a point to Sarutobi. May have went too far, but that play was meant for an audience of 1. Had to press it because Sandame-sama is hard-headed. Okay, but I'd request you never do that again. Shouldn't be a problem. By the way, what is up with you two? We're just friends, pervert. Sure. Kakashi replies, giving his trademark eye smile. Anyway, I know Danzo trained you between the finals, but I didn't get to see in what, nor would he tell me. Mind showing me so I can get an idea on your skills? Sure. Naruto said before creating a dozen shadow clones. 6 surround Kakashi and start to blur through hand signs, shouting in unison, Earth style, Earth wall. Kakashi smirks as the walls reach 12 feet high. As soon as the jutsu is completed, 4 of the remaining clones appear on top of the walls, preparing their own jutsu, water style, wild water wave, overloading the technique with chakra until the clones dispersed. 2 nature releases. Impressive. Kakashi thinks while dodging the brunt of the water attack. Now the real Naruto and the 2 clones that hung back appear atop of the earwalls, wind style, drilling air bullets, all called out, forcing Kakashi to dodge and try to escape, but when Kakashi starts to climb the mud wall he feels 2 hands start to pull him into the wall. Impressive, Kakashi thought, having never considered using the double suicide decapitation technique in such a way. Just as Kakashi finished his thought he saw earth dragons emerge from the remaining walls. Earth style, earth dragon bullet, could faintly be heard outside the walls. In the last second Kakashi pulls off a replacement with a log. Darting back to Naruto he sees him and 2 other clones running through an extended series of hand signs and immediately stops in disbelief. Water style, water dragon jutsu, and Kakashi is again impressed with the 3 water dragons headed in his direction. He performs another replacement and decides to up his level. Darting to the clones he dodges a mudflow river and proceeds to take out the clones before finally kicking the real Naruto off the earth wall trap. However, when Kakashi looks down he sees a kunai embedded in the wall and does another replacement right before it exploded. The spar went on for another 20 minutes before it stopped. Naruto was left exhausted on the ground, panting, sweating and bruised. Kakashi looked no worse for wear but clearly impressed at how far Naruto managed to progress in a month's time with a dedicated sensei. I think we can call it for the day. Give me a few days to come up with a training regimen and we'll hit the ground running. But understand, I plan to train you into the ground. Endure it and you'll be a better ninja for it. Gotcha, sensei. And with that Kakashi shunshuns away. Grumbling about bastard senseis, Naruto gets up and leaves the training ground. Kakashi emerges in the Hokage's office and greets Tsunade. Kakashi, I won't waste your time, so let's get to it. Do you think you could get him ready in 6 months' time? Tsunade-sama, I believe I could have him more than ready by then. 3 elemental releases in a genin, especially one without a bloodline limit, is unheard of. Considering he did it in a month with virtually no one knowing, and I'd say making him Anbu ready won't be difficult at all. I should be able to iron out his taijutsu and start on some rudimentary kenjutsu training. Good. And what about your other student? What about her? Kakashi thinks. I don't know Tsunade-sama. I've tried to get her interested in training. I hoped after the Chunin exams and the invasion she'd be ready to go, but she does the bare minimum, and I get annoyed because I know there is a pupil out there that would love to have a focused sensei, so I leave her to it. And if she can't find her motivation, she might be a decent mednin, but honestly I don't know. She's taken the death of Sasuke hard, which was expected, but she's essentially given up. Okay, I'll get her into the mednin program and we'll go from there. That means it'll mostly be you and Naruto. I'll assign Anbu to run missions with you guys. We need to get him as strong and experienced as fast as possible. Kakashi, do not fail me. Hi, Hokage-sama, Kakashi says and then exits the office. Meanwhile, we find Naruto at his home away from home, whispering sweet nothings to his first love. Oh, how I have missed you. Thanks, Naruto, we've missed you as well. I'm talking to the ramen, Ayame-chan. So, you want that to be your last bowl? Sputtering, Naruto tries to recover but fails miserably, leaving Ayame to laugh at the poor knucklehead. As Naruto dives, a fellow ninja sits in the seat next to him. Whiskers, the girl says. Buns, he replies. Shrimp, panda. The two remain silent for several moments, eyeing each other incredulously before both start laughing. Where have you been? I haven't seen you since before the invasion. I know, I'm sorry. Jiraiya took me on a mission the next day. Speaking of which, you should be nice to me given you're about to fall madly in love with me and forget all about that tight-ass Neji. PFF'd. First of all, I'd never fall in love with someone shorter than me. Secondly, who says I have a thing for Neji? Besides, I'm not your type, she said in a huff. It's just so obvious. You're all like, Neji-kun can't be beat. His unnaturally tight makes his jukin more powerful than anyone's. It's a shame, you'd really want to know. I was even considering introducing you to. Choosing to ignore Naruto, implying she was a fangirl, Tenten asks, oh, and who is this mystery person? Oh, just Tsunade Senju, the Godime Hokage. Naruto, if this is a prank, you know I'll hurt you, right? Like, I'll just hurt you, it'll be my new job. I know, and I'm not. She's who we had to bring back, and she's pretty cool. The two old friends continued to discuss Naruto's mission and what Tenten had been up to since the invasion until they parted ways, agreeing to meet up sometime soon for a training session. Naruto made his way back to his apartment for a much-deserved nap. A few hours later, Naruto was awoken by a knock at his door. Scurrying to the door, he was greeted by an Anbu. Uzumaki-san, the Hokage has requested your presence. Okay, I'll be there as soon as I freshen up, thank you Neko-san, and with a curt nod the Anbu officer shushined away. Quickly hopping into the shower, Naruto wonders what Tsunade-sama could want. After exiting the shower, Naruto used a lower power wind jutsu to dry himself off, got changed into a black shirt with a red Uzumaki spiral at the center of the front, some black shinobi pants and black shinobi sandals, then ran to Hokage Tower. 10 minutes and one knock on a door later, and Naruto found himself standing in front of the newly appointed Hokage, along with Kakashi, Danzo and Jiraiya. Hello, Hokage-sama, you summoned me. Yes, Naruto, I wanted to discuss a few things with you. First, would be your actions during the invasion. Sarutobi-sama did a thorough review of the actions taken by every Chunin hopeful since the exam was ruined. According to reports, you provided dozens of shadow clones, mostly focused on getting civilians and academy students to shelter. One report stated that while you were concerned you would be a target for friendly fire, you followed the orders of your superiors and helped one in direct combat, killing 10 combatants and injuring many more. She also states that you demonstrated a proficiency with wind, water, and earth-style ninjutsu. Due to these reports and actions above and beyond the responsibilities of a genin, Uzumaki Naruto Tsunade Senju the Godime Hokage award you the rank of Chunin. Naruto was speechless. Of all the reasons he thought he could be called here, gaining a promotion was not one of them. Everyone in the room sees his surprise and all smile. Now, Naruto, you've earned this rank, but things will only get more difficult from here. For the next 6 months you will be training and doing higher ranked missions with Kakashi and other shinobi of my choosing. Should I deem you ready, you may lead some missions unaccompanied by a Junin. The reason for this focused training is not just to make up for what Sarutobi did but also to get you prepared. Should Kakashi, Danzo, and myself deem you ready, you will be granted an invitation to join the Anbu. Should you pass their trial period, you will be a full member of the Anbu for no less than 3 years. During that time you will have periodic training sessions with Jiraiya at MT Myoboku, with your final year spent mostly there except for the occasional mission. I don't know what to say, thank you Tsunade-sama. Don't thank me yet, this is going to be hell, I won't lie to you, but we need to get you as powerful as we can so we can face the Akatsuki. I don't plan on being passive where they are concerned, I'd like to use some time to gather information and then proceed to hunt them down. Allowing them to dictate the pace would be a mistake. Now, Naruto, is there any part of this you have a problem with? Please be honest. I don't know how invested Jiraiya will be as a sensei. I don't believe his teaching style meshes with my learning style and would only frustrate me when that time could be better spent with someone that desires to teach me. Before Tsunade can say anything, Jiraiya speaks up. Look, Naruto, I know you were less than happy about how I trained you during the Chunin exams, but I was trying to train you to think through problems, not baby you. Case in point, Hokage-sama. A sensei instructs. If my requesting more than the bare minimum in instruction is seen as babying, then our time together won't be fruitful. If Jiraiya would like to curate for me a training program, I would happily accept and find someone more suited to my, apparently, unreasonable preferences. To this exchange, Tsunade can only sign and hold her palm to her face while thinking, damn it Jiraiya. You claim you want to make it up to the kid and then openly insult him when he expects you to instruct. Naruto, we can decide on that later, but for now take this. Tsunade hands him his Chunin vest, and go celebrate. I'm giving you the next 2 days off, after that meet Kakashi at your usual training ground at 7 a.m. Hi, Hokage-sama, and thank you again. Naruto says while making his exit. What is wrong with you, Jiraiya? What do you mean? Do you actually want to have a relationship with Naruto, or do you just want to ease your guilty conscience? Tell me now, because I won't stall his progress to make you feel better. I don't want to stall his progress, but I have my way of doing things. Yes, I'm aware of your way. It includes leaving him alone for hours so you can stare at asses and tits. That's not instruction. It worked with Minato. So, no, seriously, so what? It worked with Minato. Minato was a genius and it allowed you to be lazy, congratulations. Naruto isn't Minato, and since your first impulse is to bring up a man Naruto is conflicted about, at best, I'm inclined to rethink your role in his training. You can't do that. Why can't I? Because he's my godson and he'll need my knowledge. Knowledge you have little interest in imparting. I'm not going to even acknowledge him being your godson, that hasn't seemed to matter to you for most of his life. I've made mistakes, but I'm not going to apologize for them to you. You've known him for 5 minutes and what? You're his defender. Someone has to do it, might as well be me. Although I'm not entirely sure why we're having this discussion. I'm Hokage, you retrieved me for that very reason. I have to do what's best for the shinobi under my command, and stunting Naruto to make you feel better isn't high on my list of concerns. So, what? You want me to just hover over him? He's an adult, he has to learn to think for himself and stand on his own 2 feet. Are you situationally deaf or stupid? There is no need for insults, Tsunade. That boy became proficient in 3 elemental releases in a month without you knowing. That didn't happen by magic, and even with proper guidance it is still something one must figure out for themselves. So, What is this insistence of yours that your way is right and true? Because of Minato. You ever been told to not judge a method by a single result? Because you'd probably survive if I punched you out this window, but does that make flight by my fists a safe mode of travel? Danzo, you trained him for the Chunin finals, what can you tell me about Naruto and his learning style? He's a natural kinesthetic learner, which could make him prone to trial and error to solve things. However, that doesn't make him incapable of learning or understanding theory, you just have to explain it in a different way than you would for most people. He has an incredibly creative and inventive mind that almost rejects convention by rote. If your explanations can manage to get on his wavelength, then you'll find a sharp mind that can have an almost unnaturally intuitive grasp on subjects. Admittedly, it took me a few days to get used to it, but once I did, he made incredible gains. Could you give us an example? Yes, Tsunade-sama. He was having trouble with the first exercise for wind release manipulation, but with his determination he would just try to power through. I asked him to stop and take a break so we can try to work through it a different way. So, we talked, for about 10 minutes. Near the end he asked me how it felt to mold wind chakra. Admittedly, I had no response. I'm an experienced wind user, so I don't think about how it physically feels to do so, so he handed me a leaf to do the exercise. Once I described not how I thought about molding the chakra but what it physically felt like, a light bulb went off. He had the exercise completed no more than an hour later. He had the first exercises of both water and earth done within the next day. Once I likened the theory to something tangible, that each nature release feels differently, he was able to take that idea and apply it to the needs of other exercises. Once he established a feel for the nature release, molding the chakra for the jutsu seemed almost too easy for him. The second exercises of each release, while more difficult, were still completed by the end of the second week. Oh, the horrors! You had to talk with your student. Oh no. He'll never be self-reliant. Okay, Tsunade, I get your point. Look, I've always been laid back and believed you should allow a student to find their own way, just offering nudges to keep them on the right track. And how many students have you had that have actively been sabotaged? Also, Naruto created an exploding kunai. Kakashi didn't teach him that, and no one made him do it. This idea that he isn't self-directed is you justifying negligence. We're going in circles, you're all dismissed while I think more on your involvement, Jiraiya. Just understand that it isn't your right but my permission that determines it. Oh, before we leave, Hokage-sama, Naruto is quite the admirer of your uncle, Tobirama-sama. I wouldn't be surprised if he eventually asked for any notes or works on his final water manipulation exercises. To this, Tsunade could only smile. Thank you, Danzo. And with that, all three parties exited. As Naruto is taking a stroll through the village, he notices that he isn't receiving as many glares as he normally does, and some are actually smiling at him. Weird, he thinks before his thoughts are interrupted. Wondering why they aren't glaring at you as much. I actually was, Anko-san. How do you know? Because I've experienced it as well. When you're a social pariah but things start to change for you, it can be disorienting, seeing near complete hate or indifference slightly shift to mostly hate and a little acceptance. Word got around about what you did. Yes, that's what I was afraid of. Oh, you mean the Uchiha? He was the golden boy during peacetime. Civilians may be many things, most of them no pleasant, but that short-sighted self-interest worked in your favor. Once the invasion started, caring about some clan they never actually interacted with became significantly less important. It doesn't mean some won't take issue with it, but many more are concerned about their families, businesses and the like. So, that's all it took. If someone had only told me. You're funny, kid. Oh, I almost forgot, thank you. It seems I got promoted mostly due to your post-invasion report. I appreciate it. No problem, kid, I just told the truth. We kicked, Anko said with a fist pump. Chuckling, Naruto replies, all the same, I'd like to do something as a show of gratitude, so how about I buy you some dango sometime? You sure you aren't trying to get a date out of me? It's not nice to try and trick Anko-chan. Sputtering, Naruto tries to reassure her he's not asking her out, but it comes out as a lot of gibberish, which makes Anko laugh. Seeing she's had her fun, she grabs Naruto and hugs him tightly, enveloping him in her, and accepts his offer. As she dashes off, she faintly hears Naruto muttering, "Arrow Snake Lady," trying desperately to get his blush under control. Naruto continues his walk as he sees two people he had really hoped to not have to deal with. Exiting Yakiniku Q was Team 10 and most of Team 8. She may not have been the first to notice him, but she'd, of course, be the first to say something. "Naruto, what are you doing with that Chunin vest?" Rolling his eyes, as he hates obvious questions, showing I can pull off anything, Ino. "Dobi, did you get promoted?" Sighing, "Yes, Kiba, I did get promoted, and how are you?" "Why did you get promoted?" "The exam results were cancelled. For my actions during the invasion, Ino." "Congratulations, Naruto-san." "Thank you, Shino. I still can't believe you got promoted when no one else did." "That's utter crap. You weren't even in the finals, Kiba. Why are you so emotionally invested in this?" "Because you're the dead last. God, you're useless. Our academy rankings mean shit. We aren't in school anymore, dipshit, so get over it, Genin. You will not pull rank on me, I'll still kick your troublesome." "Yes, Kiba, assault a superior officer. I'm sure that'll work out well for you." "Shut it, lazy ass, Kiba has a point. You aren't better than us, Naruto. Especially not after what you did to Sasuke. Ino, I'd say you're an embarrassment to your clan, but your whole clan is trash. If you saw the fight between Sasuke and I, then you know I did nothing wrong, so I suggest you find a way to deal with it, because I won't be apologizing nor discussing it with you. Your prince is dead but can continue to ignore you from the afterlife, so what changed really?" "Naruto, you bastard. How could you insult my clan and say that?" "Easy. Ask your dad his policy on forcibly altering the memories of children as they beg him to stop. Tell him Naruto told you to ask." "Now, I'm done talking to you." "I'm not finished yet," Kiba replied as he attempts to grab Naruto before being stopped by Choji. "Kiba, if you don't shut your mouth, I'll shut it for you. I'm sick of you, mediocre talent, but always running your mouth. You couldn't beat me when I had a seal suppressing my chakra on me. What makes you think you'd be a challenge now?" Just as things were about to escalate, the Junin sensei for both teams arrive. "Enough," barked Asuma. "What the hell is going on here?" "Simple. Someone needs to put a muzzle on that bitch. Oh, and Ino should talk less, too," Naruto replied. "Uzumaki, since you've clearly been promoted, you should do better. Are you serious?" "Look, I was minding my business when Kiba insulted and threatened me, and after being reminded to not assault a superior officer, he attempted to attack me anyway. So, how am I now responsible for his actions? Also, Uzumaki, you refer to no one else by their last names but me. What's your problem with me? What have I ever do to you?" "I'd like an answer to that as well." Everyone turns to see Kakashi, face in his orange book. "I'll deal with Kiba, but you should still walk away." Now, the other two Junin are looking at her like she's grown a second head. No, a superior officer does not walk away nor turn the other cheek. Subordinates stand down, and everyone knows this. Seeing that her response wouldn't fly, she relents. "Okay, you're right, Kiba was in the wrong and will be punished. As for the other thing, can we talk over there?" Kurenai says while pointing to an alley. "Fine." The two relocate to the alley and Kurenai takes a deep breath before speaking. "I do owe you an apology, Naruto-san. I'm sorry for my rudeness. While I know you are not the fox, I did lose some family that day and had never been more terrified before or since. I've let that affect how I treat you, and I'm sorry. I hope you can forgive me." "No, excuse me, I don't forgive you. I don't care what the fox did to you. If that's your reason for acting the way you have towards me, I don't forgive you. You don't deserve it. Naruto, you have to understand. I don't have to understand a damn thing. All of you are the same. You just put shit on a child endlessly and demand he understand you. Understand your pain and your experiences. Who bothers to understand me? Bothers to understand that you don't get to punish me for something that was forced on me. Do you think I was an orphan by accident? I lost people, too, but I'll never get to know them. I'll never have memories of outings, of conversations around the dinner table, of not feeling like I'm universally hated on my birthday. And yet most of you have all of that. And on top of it, you get to take out your frustration and redirect your sense of loss onto a defenseless kid. So, no forgiveness for you, you hateful bitch. You stay away from me and I'll do the same for you. Before she can respond, Naruto runs off, leaving Kurenai speechless and shamed. As Kurenai walks back to the group, she sees only Kakashi and Asuma still there. Kurenai, are you okay? What happened? I tried to apologize for how I've treated him and he declined it. I tried to justify myself and it didn't go over too well. He called me hateful and I can't even disagree. I've always been cold to him, telling myself I was being professional, but that wasn't true. I acted like his mere presence was corruptive. Kakashi, I'm sorry. I never considered how I'm just one of many, how my actions don't occur in a vacuum. I hope he can forgive me one day, as I will do better. Honestly, Kurenai, I don't know. He may have just been keyed up and let his temper get away from him, but once he cools down, things may change. There's a lot that's been revealed to him over the past month, so any hint of unfairness will set him off for the near future. We have the Sandaime to thank for that. What did my dad do? I thought he and Naruto were close. Fighting back a scoff, Kakashi answers, Asuma, you should really talk to him about the decisions he's made. Naruto didn't have to be an orphan, nor did his skills have to languish as they have. What Sasuke said at the exams was true. Teachers did actively sabotage him at the academy, but the rest was the doing of your father. If you ask and he won't tell you, I will. But in the meantime, you both need to get your genins in line. Trust me when I say none of them individually are a match for Naruto, and the next time one attacks him, he'll know he has my permission to zealously defend himself. Open season on Naruto Uzumaki is officially closed. Do with that as you may.